Hey y'all, my name is Ann Wyatt. I started my career in workforce development with the state of Kentucky in 2010. That experience ignited a deep passion for manufacturing within me. I started this show hoping to raise more awareness around the bright outlook manufacturing careers have. Join me as I sit down with some of the manufacturing industry's most successful changemakers and learn how they're partnering people with technology. It's time to give people more meaningful work. This is Workforce 4.0. To another episode of Workforce 4.0. Today's episode, we're going to have a very different tone, and we are having our very first repeat guest here on the show, Kevin Bowers from AMT. He is the VP of Research and Development there at AMT. He has agreed to come back on and do a part 2 episode, if you will. If you'll remember, we had Kevin on the show back at the very beginning of 2025. Kevin, how are you? Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be back. Lots changed since we last spoke. Maybe some of the things we kind of spoke about and maybe foreshadowed have come to pass, and then some. So it'd be fun to catch up on all the things happening in the manufacturing space.
Absolutely. And I know there was a lot of discussion at the very beginning of the year. We were talking about, I hate to say it, tariffs, the T word is what I like to call it, but the potential impacts that it would have on manufacturing. You know, Kevin and I are here today. Of course, Kevin is heavily involved with AMT and the amazing work that they are doing for manufacturing companies. But I want to go ahead and put this out here. Kevin and I are here today in order to try to get this as much information to small businesses and small and medium manufacturers as possible to help them make better decisions and also to give them resources that they are probably, being faced with right now. Kevin, can you just give us a brief overview of some of the things that we're anticipating about talking about today? I know you've got a survey and then you've got some other kind of highlights.
Sure. What we've been doing at AMT, one is we wanted to get the pulse of the membership, see how things are impacting them, one. So we did a survey in Q2 sometime around May, and then we're just wrapping up one here in Q3. But in addition to that, gathering all the, quantitative data, but also asking some open-ended questions and just some qualitative data. In addition to that, kind of trying to bring together resources. Where can I go? How can I contact my representative to tell them what's going on? Who's doing advocacy to help small businesses? What are websites I can view where things are changing or find the current state of? So trying to pull all those resources together, as well as kind of getting a pulse with the membership of what we've been heavily focused on, say, the last 4 or 5 months.
Right. And I know that you had reached out to me last week and I had kind of shared a little bit of information about where you can find that survey. But what is the number one benefit for manufacturing companies out there to get involved and speak up and take the survey?
Well, so a lot of the talks with our membership, some of them have been proactive in talking to their senators or Congress persons in their district and, expressing their concerns over, what's happening as far as tariffs and how it impacts them. But a lot of times what they come back and say is, so where's the data? We appreciate it feels bad, it doesn't look good, but where's the data? So the benefit of taking part in any survey, whether it be from us or any other organization, they're trying to gather data, is to put your data in so there's some data informed facts that can be presented to your congressman and then up through the levels and chains and things of that nature. And, at AMT, we also try to meet with government agencies, Department of Commerce and things of that nature. So we use that data the same way, right? It's not gut feel and intuition, which also important, but some hard facts are quite beneficial when you're trying to, reverse the inertia that is tariffs right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. When it comes to the impact that tariffs are having on different industries in manufacturing, what are some of the results and findings that you're seeing being reported from these surveys and conversations?
That is a good question. So, there's 2 points. There's the tariffs and impact the imports, things that come into our country, right? Because, it's effectively a tax on those. But then we have a lot of people making things here in America that are sending them out, exporting them, where, when they land in these other countries, sometimes there's reciprocal tariffs on that because of what states have done. So we're starting to try to track that too. If you're exporting, is that impacting your business because other countries are putting similar type tariffs on the products that you're sending in. So I would say the biggest takeaways and the trends from what we saw compared to the Q2 survey in Q3 is, in May, we were starting to see margin pressure, right? But now it's worse. More people shifted to strongly agree that it's really impacting them. So, pressure is more lopsided. Almost 9 out of 10 people were reporting some pressures on margins. A lot of the data we had in May was like, we don't know what we're going to do. Maybe we're going to eat that now, not pass it on to customers. We don't know if it's going to go up, down, what we're going to do. So it was a bit of uncertainty last time, and it's now shifted to more of a defensive posture where they're explicitly telling the customer, okay, here's our price, and then here's the additional add-on for the tariffs and such. Or some are just rolling it in to the base price and just saying it's a price increase. And, there's pros and cons to both. So, but people are being more defensive and laying it out. Hey, costs us more, so it's going to have to cost you more. And I would say the exposure to more things, it's growing, right? Additional tariffs on just overall, but then there's special, Section 232 steel and aluminum tariffs or semiconductor-based tariffs or all these other things. So on top of the standard, tariffs, where we see there's starting to be some frameworks and agreements with different countries, Japan, Europe, Korea, and I think have settled in at about 15% is what they've said. But then you have, these additional tariffs that stack on top of that. So you have to be vigilant, tracking all these extra concerns, right? And, like I did say that, people that are exporting, it's about 50-50. 50% say it is impacting their export business because of, say, what, Europe is doing because they're receiving American products or vice versa. But there is an impact. But, the international markets that are more price sensitive, it's a bigger problem. So, like we were talking earlier, generally the feedback is the uncertainty is hurting the most, right? Is it 15? Is it 25? Is it 5? Is it 30? What do we, how do we, we're taking these proactive steps to communicate to the customer. They order the product. The lead time is so many months, but what we told them then is now changed 3 times, and we had to tell them 3 times. Maybe it's, the customer's like, fine, I'll just ship it somewhere else or not buy it. So the uncertainty is the problem. Those are the largest takeaways from what we've seen, May and then May again into August in our surveys.
That's really interesting. I have of course follow-up questions on
Okay.
that. I think, and for a lot of folks in the industry that maybe they're not as familiar with taking, the material and the product and like the actual manufacturing process and everything, how that relates to the tariffs. When you're looking, especially steel and aluminum, I'm very curious about this because aluminum ingot is not super easy to find in the United States. When you're looking at these things, are you looking at, is this raw material that we're imposing tariffs on? Is it a full product that is made of this material? Can you kind of give us some insight there?
So Section 232 is, a term you hear a lot, right? And that's part of whatever code where, the government can do investigations about, like dumping a product into the states that are at a lower price than we can manufacture. So the Section 232, they do investigations, and then if they conclude, well, people are dumping steel or aluminum into the states, they levy a tariff on those inputs, the billet, the slab, the cold rolled steel, whatever those things are. But then additionally, what has happened this year is they've opened it up to, you can add things, what they call derivatives. That could be a fully manufactured product, and then they tax the portion of that fully manufactured product that has some sort of the steel, the original inputs, right? So, for example, one that's impacting our members in the manufacturing technology area is in August when they listed 407 different product categories that are derivatives of steel and aluminum, and one of them was machining centers, which is a huge portion of the machines sold in the United States. And so what happens is in your machining center, of course, it's made of all sorts of things, you know, plastic, rubber, you know, metal, all these things. So then the steel and or aluminum content thereof, the machine is subject to that 50% tariff, right? So you have to, the big problem is how do you calculate it? Do I go down to the bolt and the housing of the pump? So you have to come up with the dollar value and the weight of those steel and aluminum parts in your equipment, list those out separately, and then pay an additional 50% tariff on top of the standard, say, if you're coming from Japan or Europe, paying the 15%. So it is a combination of both the raw inputs, you know, as well as like the full manufactured product, you know. In that 407 derivatives they listed in the beginning of August there, it's a combination, some more inputs, but also fully assembled, you know, products as well. So that cycle of adding things will start again tomorrow. So on the federal website, regulation.gov, people will be able to say, hey, I would like to have whatever derivative added. And then once that lists are comprised, then there'll be 2 weeks of public comment. And then the government takes all those things into consideration. And then in some time frame towards the end of the year, they'll list more products that they're going to, you know, put in there, whether they be inputs or, you know, fully manufactured products as well. So it's both, which makes it difficult.
That is a super, that's absolutely difficult. That's a super big challenge for manufacturing companies that, you know, probably have never had to do this before. I do not remember. I know that we had some tariffs back in 2016, 2017. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
We had some, but never to this calculation, it seems like.
Yeah, I think I do a lot of reading and research, and some graphs. There's like, you know, the announced rates like 15, 20, 30, whatever, right? Whatever. But then there's the effective one, right? Well, how much of that's coming into the country and imported. And the effective tariff rate used to be around like 5% overall of all the different things that were tariff coming to the States. And now that's risen to like 10, 15, 20%. So it's definitely impacting. You know, some suppliers are eating some of that. There's also some inventory they already had in the States that, you know, they can get a lower amount of, or there wasn't any tariffs because it was already here. But eventually we think, you know, and you hear in the news that the tariff increases are creeping into everyday products.
Right. Absolutely. Do we have any perspective on how this will ultimately shift the global supply chain?
It's a good question. Anecdotally, talking to some members, I've heard of, you know, some are investing in building in America. So, you know, it's always great to, you know, have your supply chain right next to where consumption is, right? It reduces risks and things like that. And that's the overall, you know, goal that the administration stated for these tariffs. And of course, I think everyone wants more manufacturing in the States, right? It's a great industry, and it's, you know, vital for our national security and things of that nature. But with the uncertainty and the initial impact or chaos that it causes, you know, some people are delaying. A lot of the comments is, of course, we want to start manufacturing here, but, you know, there's not a consistent rate, so it's hard to plan, or, you know, some of the things we need are also tariffs, so it's the chicken or the egg. So there's a lot of things to be worked out. So, I mean, the critical thing is to keep reading, follow the sites, see what's coming, talk to your representative, and try to weather the storm.
I know that we talked a little bit about the impact of interest rates, because I feel like, and maybe this is, you know, I don't have like super hard facts here to back this up, but, you know, it seems like if we have tariffs on one end and then we have a higher interest rate, it does make it harder for a company that is considering reshoring to go to the bank and get the loan for facility.
Yeah. So good news is tomorrow the Federal Open Market Committee meets to decide if there's going to be a rate cut, and why they've not committed to doing that or said anything. We'll find out tomorrow around, I think, September 17th. I mean, the market seems to think it's going to happen. So that, a rate cut will be helpful. But also some of the things that passed in the most recent Big Beautiful Bill Tax Reform Act of things that will help, right? Some of the bonus depreciation and things are also now applicable to facilities, which is helpful, right? So you can depreciate more quickly some of the outlays of capital that you need to put in place to build something. So that's helpful, but it's going to take time, and hopefully we'll see a rate cut tomorrow. But you got to balance where the jobs, the Fed's job is to balance inflation and job growth, right? So there's a flurry of information coming out every day that some think it should go up higher and it didn't go up higher. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. So, and then again, we'll have another meeting in December. So there's still 2 opportunities to cut rates this year for manufacturers.
That is interesting. And of course, the job reports numbers are, I mean, they're devastating. I did not think that this level of job cuts and open positions could transpire as quickly as it did. And do you have any insights on that? I'll let you're the expert.
Well, consistently this year, other than a few positive numbers in January and February, it's been hovering around a 7,000 to 12,000 loss in manufacturing every month, right? And year to date, I think it's 78,000 jobs lost in manufacturing. So, some of that, as we've talked about, the workforce is aging. Sometimes natural attrition, right? Just people retiring and then not being backfilled by the younger generations coming in. So that's one issue. So what has to happen as we try to solve this problem, people are having to invest in more higher automated equipment so that you can get much more done with less. So in spite of these job losses, industrial production is increasing a little bit because of all the extra investments in automation and things. So, again, I think we talked about last time, automation is not taking people's jobs. It's just helping us keep a little bit above the status quo because we're losing people. So we still need, more people to get into apprenticeships and trade schools and things of that nature. And that's a seemingly hard thing to get done.
Right. Well, I hadn't looked at that too much, to be honest. I was just kind of shocked that it was on the decline the way that it was. But you believe that at this point that it's due to mostly automation to...
Well, I don't think the job loss is due to automation. I think the job loss covers the fact that we are losing, but I think it's probably all this uncertainty and things of that nature, less, but there's still, 400,000 open positions. So, we still want people to help us make stuff. It's just, one, people are retiring just because it's time. And then 2, uncertainty is leading to people delaying decisions or laying people off. So it's a tough time. So we're keeping up manufacturing all these things. Today the industrial production numbers came out from the government and it increased, which everyone was surprised about in spite of all these things. So, we're keeping up even though we're losing people, and it's probably due to our country's propensity to be innovative when it comes to manufacturing and, employing some automation to stave off some of these losses.
Interesting. I didn't know if there was any projections, if AMT got into job projections.
No, don't. No, we follow it closely, right? But, people that do a lot more into the workforce advocacy, like SME, the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, they're big into that. And NAM, the National Associated Manufacturers, they are. But, we follow it closely because if you don't have people have to run these pieces of manufacturing technology that we have. We selfishly want more people to consume more equipment, but so far we're not stemming the tide of job loss in manufacturing, it seems.
When you're thinking about companies that are smaller in manufacturing, which are really probably the ones that could use these resources the most, what are the top 3 things that if they're listening today and they're concerned about tariffs or they're concerned about quarter four or whatever, that they can do?
Well, I mean, I think that one, they're all in the same boat. So talk to others. I think there's a vested interest in everybody getting together and trying to work on this. There's, lots of different associations, NMT, NTMA, PMA, and probably they have local chapters where you could probably get involved, and they're very good at advocacy as well. But also, talk to your representatives. It's their job to represent the constituents within their area, right? So, be vocal with that and try to keep up with all the announcements. They're fast and furious, but, I think our article, on amtonline.org, which you posted about last week, it has some resources, and there'll obviously be more, but keep reading. I think is important to stay up to breast about it. But there's power in community, so talk to other people that around you in the same, manufacturing space, and join local organizations and have your voice be heard.
Absolutely. Yeah. In the South, we would say raise some cane.
Yes.
We have like a whole chicken place after that. But in all seriousness, now is the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So Now is the time.
Yep. And, the more people that voice their opinion, to their representatives, the better. You're right. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, for sure.
That's right. And the impacts of maybe like financial resources or folks out there, organizations that are trying to put together some financial resources, what capacity are those resources geared to? And is this happening? Are we seeing, organizations like AMT, NAM,
well, I mean,
together some supplemental resources?
I think, we wrote a few articles on, the benefits of all, the new tax breaks and things have been extended or expanded. So there again, reading about that, but then engaging with your tax consultant, also beneficial, right? They're the experts in that. But I think that, if you don't ask, you won't find out. So make sure you bring all opportunities to your financial advisors, or, also a lot of the local chapters of these organizations are very helpful in this regard, right? They have experience and they have partners that they partner with that can help in those regards. So I think there is capital out there to be had, and ways to, deduct or reduce your tax exposure with all these new additions. So use it, I would say. That's a question I don't know the answer to, but it seems as if most of the help is coming by tax breaks, not by supplementing with grants. But, then you hear a lot of, some states are pretty active in it. Ohio seems to be very active in like grants and things of that nature. So there's the federal, and then there's the state level. So again, the people that should know the most about this are your local Congress representatives and Senate representatives. So ask them, hey, what's our state and or federal doing for our area of the world here in the United States? So, but it seems mostly less grants, more tax breaks.
Gotcha. As far as quarter four projections, that we can look at this point, maybe even into Q1 2026.
Well,
I don't know if that's might be a little bit too far out.
Well, the good news is, not good news, but some of the forecasting, I've seen for, GDP, there's still a positive number forecasted for growth, both from the government. I think the government's saying about 1.5%, but then other institutions like Oxford Economics and ITR are almost 2 or 2.5%. So that still means the economy is growing. So that's good news, right? And as far as
in a recession, and
right,
the sky is not totally falling.
Right, exactly. So still growth projected. As far as like manufacturing technology, we had an August update to our projections for manufacturing technology consumptions. And in May, it was a negative number year-over-year growth. And in August, it was knocked to positive. So that's good news, right? So there'll be more manufacturing technology equipment consumed this year than last. So there's growth there. So, I think there's still hope to be positive. I read, the articles I read about industrial production and capacity utilization is they'll see a pretty strong rebound in 2026. So that's also good news. So in spite of all the bad news we hear, there's still growth projections. So got to keep pushing through.
Yeah, do we think that maybe we're actually witnessing what we're witnessing here from a high level is just a bottleneck? I've thought about that. I think about weird things though. Like sometimes I don't know, but just kind of this we don't know what we're doing. Now we have direction and now it's going to like
Well,
kind
I
of
think
funnel through
that
until it opens up.
the most difficult part about economics as a science is one of the variables is people. So, if we start to focus on the negative, then it starts to be somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy and a downward spiral. But if we start to focus on some of the positive, the growth projections and some of the good news still coming out, then we will ourselves in the right way. So I think positivity is a choice. So if we choose to be positive, I think, it should help.
It is a choice. And I do think that sometimes, you get that fear going and it's hard to, if if you're highly risk averse, I mean, most manufacturing companies are risk averse, I believe.
Right.
But just staying positive.
Yeah, stay positive, speak good things into existence, but don't give up. There's others in the same boat. Talk with them, band together, talk to your representatives, let them know how things are impacting, because everyone wants manufacturing to grow. It's very important for our country and our national security. So they should listen.
Yeah. I think so too. I think everybody is really invested into manufacturing growing. I really feel like that's universal. I think that's nonpartisan. If in its own way, if that makes sense. So yeah, and they work for you. I
Okay.
like to remind that as a former government employee.
Yeah, they serve at the pleasure. And so let's be positive, focus on the positive news. Shameless plug, but we have IMTS coming up next year. So that'll be a great place for buyers and sellers to connect and help keep driving the manufacturing community to growth.
Am I going to see you at IMTS, Kevin? Are you
Yeah,
going to be rocking IMTS?
I'm probably one of the closest AMT employees to the venue, right? I'm based in Chicago, so it's a very simple drive for me. So it's 1 year out. We just kind of had our 1 year kind of out kickoff last week at AMT. So we're excited, busy as heck. You wouldn't think a year out from that show you'd be busy, but it's a mammoth undertaking getting 100,000 people and to 1 point whatever 4 million square feet of exhibition space ready.
I see why that show is every 2 years.
Exactly.
I don't know if you could manage all that just year after year.
Yeah, it takes our IMTS exhibition team's amazing. It's the biggest industrial trade show and then whatever Northern Hemisphere, and we keep reinventing ourselves, making it better. So it's a great place to be and come see what's going on in the manufacturing space for both people making stuff and people supplying those people.
Where can folks register for IMTS?
Registration just opened yesterday. So imts.com and you can register. Registration is open. So register early.
Register early. That's right. That's my plan. Awesome. Well, Kevin, I appreciate that. Is there any other, kind of big takeaways for manufacturers out there just looking to navigate, manage their chaos, right? Manage the kind of the way that things are.
Yeah, it's just like any other production problem you see on the floor. It's a problem. You make a plan and work the plan, right? Don't just put your head in the sand. It's just another hurdle you got to jump over. Don't treat it any differently, Like I said, stay positive, use the resources. There's lots of news about this, a lot of, public information about what's going on, when it's going on. And so read those things, sign up for newsletters and just keep listening. And, it's just another opportunity to be creative and solve a problem. Just think of it as that, I think.
I love that. I love that. Yes, be proactive, not reactive. It's an opportunity. Everything's an opportunity if you look at it the right way. Okay, well, Kevin, I appreciate.
I say we'll keep writing articles. So visit amtonline.org every once in a while, and we'll continually update it with the things we know and the resources we have. So we're happy to help the industry in that regard.
Excellent. I was going to ask you if you wanted to give a point of contact or if you wanted to me to link anything other links in the show
Well,
notes?
so on amtonline.org is the place to go, and we'll have the articles. And then, under, if you navigate to research services, there's a place to, submit a question or a request, and those are an automated email that I get. So navigate yourself there, or feel free to email me. I guess it's kbowers@amtonline.org. Happy to take that and help out however I can.
Excellent. And then LinkedIn is also pretty good.
Yep.
Spot to
Exactly.
connect with you. Awesome. Well, Kevin, I really appreciate your time today. I know you're super busy. I thank you for everything that you do. You're the leading edge of providing the resources that manufacturing companies rely on right now.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of Workforce 4.0. We hope you found it as helpful. We enjoyed it for you all, and we will see you all next week.